Hello, I'm Dr. Lance Morris, and welcome to my weekly YouTube post. This is number 21 in a sequential series. My senior year of high school, I got expelled for technical rock climbing. That year, the school's attorneys had decided that the liability for the school was too great. You have to understand, I had been climbing for the previous 3 years and felt that it was ostensibly my right. I made this very clear to the administration and reached out to my parents to have their attorney draft a document exonerating the school from any liability for my actions. As all of my climbing buddies had already graduated, I recruited a couple of my athletic classmates to join me to climb Cathedral Rock. Most people are familiar with this magnificent sandstone monolith. The famous view of this rock is from Oak Creek Crossing in Sedona. If you're not familiar with it, do a Google search. It's a really beautiful rock. My prep school, VVS, is on the southern side of this rock, so it looks very different from this angle. Most rock climbers are primarily familiar with climbing on granite. Sandstone is very soft and crumbly. If you try to climb sandstone using pitons, the wedges that you hammer into cracks, or use compression bolts, you will die because they just pop out. For sandstone, we use expansion wedges that only work for larger cracks, and we know not to use them for holding your total weight, but just as extra support. On smooth vertical surfaces, we may use something called expansion bolts, which require hand drilling a hole in the sandstone. This usually takes at least a half an hour per hole, so we try only to use these when there is virtually no other choice. After we drill the hole, we hammer these in. The expansion bolt has a loop of metal at the end that expands at the end of the hole, jamming it in place. These can be used for full body weight. Although I had a full set of my own climbing gear, for this climb we needed an extra rope. So I broke into the school's climbing equipment room to borrow an extra rope. I felt totally justified and did recognize my tendency to be oppositional defiant, to resist authority and question everything. We told several classmates that we were going and most likely would be back by evening. The hike from the school campus to the base of the climb, if you're in good shape and know the best route, takes about 2 hours to get up and about 1 hour to get down as we would usually run. Once we had attained the pinnacle of Cathedral Rock and enjoyed the awesome panoramic view and the incredible energy charge, which is actually palpable, it was time to consider our route down. Now, Sedona is famous for what are called energy vortices. They give tours so people can visit and experience them. Meditation is significantly enhanced in the vortices. Having lived and rock climbed extensively through Sedona, I will tell you that the most powerful vortices are at the top of the sandstone monoliths. I would say as a general rule that neither the tourists, their tour guides, nor the locals necessarily know this. This would be something rock climbers know, but not the regular folk. So now it was time to get off Cathedral Rock. My favorite way down is to do what's called a free rappel from the top to a boulder jammed between the first and the second spire. A free rappel means that from the first step off the rock, you are free floating on the rope. Your feet can never touch the rock wall. Once we were all successfully on the jammed boulder, the next step was to pull the rope down in preparation for the next rappel pitch. Unfortunately, the rope was jammed at the top attachment point. It was getting near dusk. The only action step was to Jumar up the rope. This requires the use of what are called prusik knots. This is a thin loop of rope that is threaded around the hanging rope so that when you attach a sling to it with a carabiner and step with your body weight into the bottom of the sling, it tightens on the rope, holding your full body weight. It takes 2 of these, 1 for each foot. To climb the rope, you alternate lifting, then stepping into each strap. This process takes a lot of stamina and time. Since it was dusk, I recommended that we call it a night. I was aware that on one side of the boulder was an elaborate cave system we could hunker down in and be well rested for our descent the next day. During the middle of the night, some of our fellow students panicked and made a command decision to wake up the headmaster to alert him about our situation. He took it upon himself to hike in the dark to the base of the climb and call out to us. Never having hiked to the base of Cathedral Rock, it must have taken him several hours with lots of unpassable routes. He was also likely to be covered in cactus spines. When I heard his voice, I came out on the boulder and yelled that we were okay and would be back in the morning. When we returned to campus, there was a tribunal waiting for us, and we were all expelled on the spot. Although I was taken aback and a little startled by the finality of this decision, I realized there was nothing further I could do other than figure out my next step to finish high school. At no point did I feel victimized or harbor a grudge against the headmaster or school. To the contrary, my experience at VVS was exceptional, and I am grateful for the privilege and believe their prep school program was then and is now one of the best in the world. Please join me next week as we touch on the teachings of Soren Kierkegaard. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to my channel.